My wife and I got married at 22. It was one of the biggest highlights of my life. I also came into it with a bunch of naiveness. I mean, marriage wasn't just sex every night, a wife that constantly validated who I was, meals ready. I mean, perfectness. It's not really how it works, is it? Hello, my friend. My name's Zach. I wish I knew now what I didn't know then. It took me a while to figure out, well, not some of that stuff. Some of the things I knew right away that was naiveness, but other things took me a little more time. I want to save you the time and just go through some lessons that I've learned. The first thing is to take care of yourself first. See, it's really easy in marriage to worry about the other person, what they need to do, what they didn't do, what they should do. But our first responsibility is ourselves. We're called to take care of ourselves physically. We're called to take care of ourselves spiritually. We're called to take care of ourselves mentally. And what I've noticed in my life is that it's really easy for me to abdicate responsibility of my own life to my wife or to others. Like, I'm not doing well mentally, so maybe if she validates me enough, I'll do better. It's never the answer. Or she reads her Bible, so I somehow get it through osmosis. I'm around her, so then suddenly I'm growing spiritually. Doesn't really work that way. Or maybe someone else can work out for me. You know, that'd be really cool. We need to invent that. Technology is going, maybe ChatGPT can do that for us, big dreams. But that's not reality. See, we spend so much mental energy, so much time focusing on everyone else. God has called you to steward your own life. And for years, I've struggled with not doing those things, not taking care of myself physically, not growing spiritually, not reading the Bible for me and how God can change me. Not reading the Bible for ooh, they really need to read this. No. You. How does God want to change you? And so I wish that I knew that it took so much more time to take care of myself and to stop spending so much time worrying about what my wife should or should not do. The second thing that I wish I knew then is to forgive quickly. In my immaturity, I think early on in marriage, when I would fight with my wife, and still a temptation today, if I'm honest, is to maybe extend the time between upset and forgiveness. Maybe punish them a little bit for what they did, or just allow silence to fester. What I've realized through marriage disagreements, we'll call them, is a lot of times there's not a magic word that's said. There's not an action that's even changed. There's just a decision to forgive. See, and I think a lot of times we take too much time to make that decision. We sit in the fester, sit in the hurt, sit in the wounds, sit in maybe the punishing of something instead of just move to forgive quickly. And I'm not saying that we should forgive the same thing over and over and over and over, and that we should keep allowing it. Allowing behavior and forgiveness are two separate things. Allowing behavior to continue, honestly, is a lot of times leads to destruction. There needs to be hard boundaries. There needs to be things that happen. There needs to be a conversation about how it will be different in the future sometimes. But forgiveness is a choice. Forgiveness is a choice that I can say to God that I'm not going to hold them to this, and I don't want to be held to my mistakes either. God has forgiven them. God has forgiven you. When we don't forgive quickly, when we try to hold on to it, there's that old saying, it's like drinking poison expecting someone else to get affected. It really is that way. Bitterness forms the longer we wait. If you have a 24-hour argument where you're I'm just not going to talk to them all day, that forms a pattern. But when you forgive quickly, it also forms a pattern. And a quick tip in this that's really helped me is when my wife and I are seeking reconciliation, either her or I, if you're not ready to forgive yet, just tell them, I'm in the process of forgiving you. Don't lie. Don't say, well, I forgive you. And really you're holding the bitterness in your heart. But just say, I'm in the process of forgiving you. It's a good reminder to you and to them that you are in that process, whether you feel like it or not. Number 3, I wish that I knew to compromise in pursuing goals. Too often I viewed my wife and later my children as a hurdle to overcome to get the goals and dreams for my life. Like that they were somehow drag while I was running through life. See, I'm a quick processor. I'm a hard charger. I have a hard time sitting still. My wife is a slower adopter to new ideas. She's a deliberate processor. She's steady. Change bugs her. And that was a lot of conflict early on. And instead of working with my wife towards my goals and dreams, I just kind of pursued what I wanted. And luckily, God convicted me on this before too much of a rift formed. But let me be very clear. No matter how slow of an adopter your spouse is, or on how quick of an adopter and how quickly they change their mind, they aren't a hurdle to overcome. They are a co-dreamer, a co-designer. And when you slow down or speed up, depending on which side of that spectrum you land, and you dream with your spouse, there is a supercharge that happens. That's part of that two becoming one. That's just, it's amazing. It's kind of like when an oxen pulls a cart, it can pull it a certain weight. When two work together, it can pull it 3 times more powerful. It's the same thing in marriage. When you compromise, when you talk about finances, even when you disagree, when you talk about how you're going to raise kids, even if you disagree, when you talk about vacations, even if you disagree, vocation, even if you disagree, there is a union that happens in it. And it will not be, if you're operating correctly, not 100% of what you want. And it won't be 100% of what they want. But there will be this beautiful compromise that will happen, and it will take you in a direction that unifies your marriage and gets you to the dreams actually faster. It just doesn't feel like it in the moment. When we don't do this, there's rift that happens. You know, in all marriages, I think there's subjects that we learn to avoid because it's going to be a marriage conflict. And it just ends in disaster, really. And here's kind of how it starts. It's in my 4th point. And it's that I wish I knew that hiddenness destroys. See, when dreams aren't aligned, hiddenness happens. Well, we don't agree on finances, so I'm going to hide the purchase. We don't agree on finances, so I'm not going to ask. I'm just going to go get the super expensive item. That is not working together in a marriage. You know, and I've done it. In fact, I actually don't know anyone that hasn't done that they haven't moved in a direction like that, but it does destroy. You know, the other ways hiddenness destroys is pornography and alcohol and other sinful behavior that's hidden destroys. I mean, those behaviors destroy in general, and the hiddenness multiplies the destruction. But my friend, if you think you are protecting your spouse, if you think I will change and then tell them, if you think it's harmless, you are wrong. It is not harmless. It's divisive, it's destructive, and it leads to death. You know, God is light. Satan hides in the darkness. And it's a good thing to remind myself when I am tempted to hide, which voice am I listening to? Because it's not God's. You know, hiddenness is a destructive, evil thing that you and I are always tempted to do. We're always tempted to hide ourselves. Back when Adam did in the garden and still today. If you've been hidden a long time, It's something that might be more of a challenge for you to come to light. And you might need the help of a coach or a pastor or a counselor. That's okay. It's worth it. It's worth the cost. All right, number 5. I wish I knew that you just wanted me to listen and not to fix your problems. I need to remind myself that today. I really needed to know that at 22 years old. I have brilliant ideas, brilliant plans. I'm just a brilliant person. No, I struggle with just listening. I like to help people grow and develop and change. And a lot of times it's a good motive. Sometimes it's not a good motive. But all the good motives in the world don't matter if someone does not know that they matter. And one of the biggest gifts we can give our spouse is to listen to them, to really hear them, to be curious about where their heart is. So a lot of times what ends up happening is we don't even show sympathy. We just go straight into fix. But when we listen and hear someone, we can display sympathy to them, and that's super important. But I'll tell you what steps it up even a notch from that is empathy. And empathy is when we're not just staying on the outside and listening like an active, observant person on the outside, like we're watching TV. But empathy is we sit with them in it. We experience them. And here's how you can do that. Really brief. Is you can listen to them. Right? You can really hear what they're saying. You can ask questions so that they know that you hear. Okay? That's sympathy so far. And then empathy is taking an experience from your life and telling them about it. Oh, that reminds me of this. That is similar to what they're feeling. That is empathy, to feel what someone's feeling and to sit with them in the pit. And you don't want to do that with everyone because it's exhausting. And you can almost drag that stuff up all the time. And people that are really empathetic really can struggle because people sharing their hurt and pain makes them feel hurt and pain because they sit in it. But my friend, your wife deserves the empathy that you display. She deserves that cost. It does come at a cost. And so don't fix it, listen to it, and empathize with it. These are the 5 things I wish I knew as a new husband. For you, in the comments below, type one thing you wish you knew as a new husband that you know now that you didn't know then. Have a great day, and God bless you in your journey as you be an uncommon husband.